Hey, what's up, guys and gals? Welcome to Chad Fixes the World, but mainly just cars. Today we're going to be replacing the front brake pads and brake wear sensors on a 99 Mercedes C230 compressor. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll show you some more repairs, tips, and tricks. Oh, it is going to be fun. These wheels are light. Also, the lug nuts on those are 17 millimeter. Okay, so now we have our brake caliper, our rotor, our hub. It's all there. That's cool. This is the brake wear sensor. So when this wears down, a wire inside of that sensor is actually going to ground on the rotor, and that's going to turn the light on. But first we have to take off the caliper spring, retention spring of death. These things are horrible. I've literally done hundreds of these, and every time it is just a pain. Getting them off is easy. Putting them back on, not fun. We'll throw that one away. No, I'm just kidding. We have to reuse that. So now we're going to pull out, I'm going to pull out the sensor. These are throwaways, and basically you need to replace them once the sensor has gone off. These are almost on the verge of going off, but you can see that little pin right there. The rotor will wear into that wire, ground that wire, and send the information to the computer, and then you'll have the front brake pad wear light on. Now we're going to go ahead and compress the piston on our caliper in so that we can get our caliper off. Now this will depress it a fair amount of the way. It's not going to depress it all the way in, but this will get us a start where we can get our caliper off of our rotor, which is fairly worn, but at this time they've decided not to replace the rotor itself. I'm going to take the dust caps off of our caliper bolts. You want to save those. It's nice to not have a lot of brake dust and debris in there when you're trying to get them off the next time. These bolts are, I believe, a 6 millimeter Allen socket, which I try to show, but my camera does not want to focus. But it is. So we're going to knock these out counterclockwise. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. We'll knock these off real quick, and that'll get us our brake caliper off, and then we can inspect the pads and remove the pads. Now these brake caliper bolts and sliders tend to stick in the rubber grooves. That's why it's a little difficult to get off. So I'm going to take them out. I'm going to wire brush them, either with like kind of the toothbrush wire brush, or if you have a brushing wheel, you can do it on that. But I always clean those up, and I'll show you in the future that I also like to give them just a little bit of lubricant only on the sliding edges, not on the threads. So we got those off. Now we can remove our brake caliper and get a look at our worn pads. As you can see on those pads that they are right almost metal to metal. Now if you let your pads wear past the friction material on them, you're going to go metal to metal, and you're going to eat up your rotors and cost yourself a lot more money. So make sure if you start getting a squealing noise on your brake pads, or even kind of a grinding sound. Grinding sound means you've gone a little too far, but you can possibly save them. Now they like to use this tool because we need to depress that piston in a little bit more. I use the old brake pad that's locked in place because I don't want to push on the piston itself. Some manufacturers use a phenolic piston, which is based out of plastic. Mercedes, so far I've seen, does not, but I still do not like to use the piston as the driving force to push it back in. So I'm using the old brake pad and my little handy tool. You could also use water pump pliers or other pliers if you wanted to. Now these inner pads snap into place. They're kind of a real pain in the butt to get back in, but great design. So we've got our inner pad out. Of course, our outer pad's just going to slide out. Now I like to go back and clean off any buildup of brake dust or dirt and stuff. Only the lower part had a little, so I'll clean that up. That just helps the pads slide in and out. These are free-floating calipers, so you want them to be able to have some movement. I always like to use a little bit of brake grease or lubricant on the sliding areas of the pads. This will help them slide. This will also help you not have noises and squeaks in the future. So it's a good idea, if you're going through all the trouble of this, to go ahead and put some of those on. Now this is the pain pad. Usually it's really hard to get those to pop into place. This one was a little easier, so God bless. I'm going to go ahead and lubricate the other outer pad. And once we get that done, we'll put the pads into place, the caliper on, and I think at that point I'm going to go ahead and clean those caliper slides and locking bolts, and then lubricate those as well. Always make sure the pad has the friction material towards the rotor, as you can see, and you can pretty much slip that on. At this point, we're going to clean those caliper bolts, and we'll go from there. You can see how dirty these are, and that creates a lot of friction and was really hard to get out also. So I'm going to wire brush those. Yay, we're all shiny now. I'm going to put just a little bit of that lubricant on there, just so it helps for the caliper to be able to freely move, and also on the next removal, those should slide just right out of place and not be a pain. If you have the dust caps. You want the dust caps on. If not, you probably have a greasy, gummed up, dirty mess inside of there. So always make sure that you replace your dust caps and probably lubricate only the sliding areas of those pins and bolts. Do not lubricate the threads. Now I forgot to film myself tightening down our bolts, for caliper bolts. Make sure you tighten down the caliper bolts. Put your dust caps back on and install your new brake wear sensor. You should be good to go. Now after replacing your brake pads, you have pushed that brake piston, the inner piston normally, back into the caliper a good distance. So you always need to make sure before you go and start your car that you pump your brake pedal 3 or 4 or 5 times. You'll feel the pedal build up, and that's that piston going back and hitting the brake rotor and getting some tension and force on it. So do not forget that, or you'll roll a little bit. I've actually done that once before. Now we have to put on the spring of death. This thing, I think I actually did this one faster than I normally would, by the grace of God, but I should put in some type of music here. I don't know if I know how to, but these are just not fun to do. I don't know who engineered these, but I think they did it just to be a jerk. So I will let you struggle with these on your own, because I really don't have that great a tip. Try to start one side, and you got to start that little inner pin on the lower side, and you got to try to get this thing over the caliper. It is not fun. I always struggle. Every now and then it just goes perfect. BMW has a slightly similar design, but I can usually do those in one try. These, well, I got that one, so that was not as bad as it normally is. You want to hammer those pins in. Make sure your retention spring is good and locked in. Good to go. Now we can go to the other side. This side, I'm gonna pretty much do at a speed that I would do repairing it normally. So I'm not gonna tell you as much tips and tricks. It's gonna be kind of get in and get out and get her done. Remove the brake wear sensor here. Pull our dust caps off. This is actual speed, just to let you know. We're going to depress our caliper piston. We're going to take our 6mm Allen head socket. I'm pretty sure it's 6mm. I could be wrong. Sorry if I am wrong. Loosen our caliper bolts and sliders. Make sure the camera's pointing in the right direction, because I bumped it. Make sure the camera's still pointing in the right direction because I bumped it again. And now we're back to business. Move our lower caliper bolt. See, it's all dirty and sticky. We'll remove our upper caliper bolt. I like to use my left hand to keep turning in tension on the socket itself. It really helps you to quickly remove those bolts while you're ratcheting. You're kind of doing an opposite turn with your hand while you're doing an opposite turn with the ratchet. Just makes them come out quicker. Now we've got our caliper off. We yank our outside pad. We'll get our little handy tool. It spins kind of cool. It looks cool. If you don't have one of these, like I said, you can use water pump pliers or or maybe a C-clamp to depress these. I leave the old pad on because I don't want to go direct contact with my piston. I'm using that old pad to push on. It just is a safer way to do it. We'll depress that pad all the way in, or that piston. Get our tool out. Pop out our old inner pad that pops into place with those little spring clips. I've pre-lubricated our other brake pads. That spring clip. These can also kind of be a pain. Make sure you got the pad in the right direction going onto the rotor, and then see if you can pop her in place. We got that one easy, so now we'll place our outer brake pad in, which I've also pre-lubricated. Make sure the friction material is always going towards the rotor. Now you can install your caliper. I've already cleaned off my slide bolts and lubricated those. Or actually, I'm going to clean off my slide bolts. Got those. No lubricant on the threads. Pop them into place. And then a wiggle jiggle, because that's kind of what you got to do to get these calipers started. It's kind of hard to see, so you want to just wiggle that caliper a little as you're trying to thread those bolts, always by hand. And you can kind of feel when it gets started. Sometimes you'll struggle on one lower, so I switch to the upper bolt here. And once you can get one started, it becomes, you can get the lower or the upper one, the opposite one started a lot easier. So that's what I did there. I just want to get these hand started to make sure I don't strip any threads or destroy a caliper bolt, because then you got more problems. Look, it tore my glove. That's a double charge. Now we can use our ratchet and go ahead and tighten up these bolts. Snug up one all the way down, snug the other up, and then we'll torque each one. Now we pretty much need to insert our brake wear sensor into the pad, which is pretty self-explanatory. It basically will go in there one way. Oh wait, it'll go in there two ways. Oh no, just one. Okay, we got that installed. Now all we have to do is that retention spring of death, and put our dust caps on. Let's put our dust caps on. Don't forget those. And now it's retention spring of death time. Well, this one actually went all right. That's good. So anyway, guys, gals, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to have a wide variety of different vehicle fixes, different makes, models, show you how to repair your vehicle, and a lot of stuff that you can do it yourself. Save yourself a bunch of money, and it should be interesting. We're going to have a wide variety of vehicles. Thanks for watching. Tore my glove. That's extra.